Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere high, really high. You're walking the narrow ridge of a village nestled far above the tree line, tucked between jagged Andean peaks that slice the clouds like ancient blades. The air is thinner up here, crisp and dry, and every step you take feels like it belongs to another century. That's because it sort of does. You've wandered into a place where time behaves differently, and the rules of daily life, especially during festivals. Don't follow anything you'd find in your modern planner. There's music in the distance, but it's not quite music in the way you're used to. It pulses, more like wind squeezing through bone, flutes singing notes that feel older than language. You're about to take part in something sacred, strange, beautiful, maybe a little confusing, and you probably wouldn't survive 5 minutes there without someone gently tugging your sleeve and whispering, "Not like that." So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight, and what time is it where you are? Let's build a sleepy little map together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're here for the festival. Andean festivals aren't quite like anything you've ever seen. They don't follow your calendar. They aren't announced with flyers. They arrive when the mountains are ready, when the stars align just right, when the coca leaves twitch in a certain way in the priestess's palm. You don't plan them, you prepare for them. Or, more accurately, you obey them. You trudge along a rocky trail, following a line of villagers with baskets on their backs. You pass under an archway of woven vines and step onto the central plaza. It's wide, dusty, and feels like the belly of the village, like everything important begins or ends here. A few kids are chasing a dog, laughing and barefoot, while elders sit nearby with eyes closed, faces like carved wood. The festival hasn't begun just yet, but it's coming, and you can already feel the shift. The plaza must be cleaned, not just swept, cleansed. You're handed a little broom made of stiff grass and shown how to brush in circles. Always clockwise, never back and forth. The dust rises in soft plumes as you work beside others in silence. Every grain matters. Every stone knows its place. Soon come the colors. Women arrive carrying bundles of dyed llama wool, freshly spun and reeking of the mountain herbs used to soften them. They lay the wool out in sun-shaped spirals across the plaza floor. Some use petals, deep orange, blue-violet, blood red. Others lay kernels of colored maize in careful lines. It's all temporary, meant to be beautiful, but never permanent. No one dares walk over the designs. There's a rhythm to all of this, not just movement, but expectation. You feel yourself falling into it, unsure where it's leading. You're not alone in your confusion. Even some of the younger villagers are glancing at the elders for cues, when to kneel, when to hum, when to pause. The rules aren't written, they're remembered, and sometimes forgotten. A boy your age tries to place a feather in the center spiral, but it falls outside the design. An old woman clicks her tongue, walks over, and without a word, removes the feather. The boy stares at the ground, shame heavy in his shoulders. You're careful after that, very careful. As the sun dips lower behind the mountains, the air grows cooler. You pull your shawl tight and watch as someone begins to circle the plaza with smoke. A shell filled with burning herbs, pungent and sharp, swings from a rope, leaving curls of white in its path. The scent makes your nose sting and your eyes water, but no one complains. The smoke is a messenger, and tonight, it's inviting old gods to stop by. You sit near a low wall, legs tucked beneath you, trying not to sneeze. A man plops down beside you with a sigh, his hands dusty and cracked from laying stone all day. He doesn't speak, but he offers you a strip of dried meat and a wink. You accept. It's tough, smoky, salty, perfect for chewing when there's nothing to say. Across the plaza, a woman stands and begins to chant. Her voice wavers like a flame, rising and falling, but the words are strange, nasal, unfamiliar, almost bird-like. A few elders nod along, You realize this language might not even be spoken outside this festival anymore. It's one of those things that only returns when needed, like snowmelt or dreams. The music starts. It's subtle at first, a soft tapping, like someone walking with a cane on stone. Then a breathy whistle joins in, high and quivering. Slowly, others add their sounds, rattles, hollow drums, reed flutes. The rhythm is uneven, unfamiliar, but it stirs something low in your chest, a memory that isn't yours. You close your eyes, just for a second. When you open them, you notice something odd. No one is clapping, no one is dancing. The music plays, but the village waits. The plaza is now full of faces, painted, masked, solemn. A woman wears feathers as tall as a child. A man has painted suns on his cheeks. A group of girls wear cloaks made of stiff leaves, rustling like dry wind. It's not a performance. It's not entertainment. It's a mirror, a memory, a ritual, and yet you feel oddly welcome. Like the mountain is letting you watch, for now. You reach for your water skin and take a sip. The cold stings your teeth. A child nearby notices and smiles, then holds up a cup of something thick and yellowish. You hesitate, but she insists. It's warm and tangy, something like fermented corn. You drink, it burns a little, but she grins. The sun is gone now. Stars shimmer in the high, thin air like they've just been born. A fire is lit near the center of the plaza, not too high, not too low, just enough to warm without chasing away the shadows. You draw closer. An elder begins to speak. You can't understand all the words, but you recognize names. The name of the mountain, the name of a bird, a god, a year, a child who was buried in the snow, a promise. The flames dance in his eyes as he speaks, and you feel something shift in the crowd. Not fear, reverence. Historians still argue whether these festivals were more political or spiritual. Some say they were about empire and control. Others insist they were gifts to the gods. But here, now, under this sky, you feel neither empire nor theology. You feel rhythm, memory, dust, smoke, breath. And just like that, the elder falls silent. No cue, no signal. But everyone begins to stand. The festival has begun. Someone takes your hand. It's rough, calloused, and warm, but the grip is gentle, as if to guide, not pull. You don't see the face in the dark, just the outline of a woman's hair pinned up with woven reeds and a piece of bone. She leads you across the plaza, weaving between people now standing in complete silence. You're not sure where you're going, but you follow because everyone seems to be moving. You're swept into a current of hushed footsteps and whispered breaths until the air opens again. You're at the edge of the plaza, facing a wide clearing framed by low stone walls and a ring of torches. This is the sacred space. The woman lets go and fades into the crowd. You take a breath. It tastes like smoke and cold stone, with something floral beneath it. And then you see them, villagers bent over in quiet concentration, decorating the clearing like they're painting prayers directly onto the earth. You step closer. No one speaks. No one gestures. But somehow, you know what to do. You kneel beside a boy placing petals in small piles, red, then white, then purple, and start lining them into spirals. A woman, a few feet away, lays tufts of llama wool like soft punctuation between maize kernels. Every item means something. You don't know what, but you feel like you've entered someone else's handwriting and been allowed to add your own small curl to a letter. It's not about beauty, it's about balance. The plaza isn't just a space for celebration, it's a stage for the gods, and it has to be perfect. The corners must be swept in a certain order. The patterns must align with the mountain peaks. Even the footsteps you take must follow the old paths, footpaths made not of stone, but of memory. You glance around. Everyone is barefoot now, quietly. You remove your shoes. It feels right. You shift your focus to the colors. So many colors. Nothing looks store-bought. The dyes are made from crushed cochineal bugs, smoky ash, steeped leaves. and fermented berries. The reds are deep and sticky, the yellows sharp like sunlight, and the blues rare, almost reverent. Someone nearby hums low, vibrating. Then another joins in, layering a second tone like wind through two hollow reeds. It's not a song, exactly. It's more like an echo. You hum too, matching the pitch. It feels like the ground is listening. Suddenly, a conch horn blows from somewhere higher up the hill. You look toward the sound, heart fluttering. That horn doesn't call people, it calls spirits. The villagers stop, still kneeling, still holding petals or husks. They all bow their heads. So you do too. The sound lingers in the air like a ripple in water. And then comes the rustling. Dozens of feet, not stomping but gliding. You glance up just enough to see them, the priest dancers. They wear tunics of woven feathers, red, green, shimmering brown, each layered like armor. Masks cover their faces, jaguar, condor, fox, and abstract shapes you don't recognize. They don't walk. They float, or seem to. Their feet barely lift from the ground as they move in unison across the plaza toward the sacred space. No one claps, no one cheers. This isn't performance, it's embodiment. Each dancer tells a myth, not with words, but with motion. One spreads their arms like wings, pivoting slowly as if riding an invisible current. Another crouches low and strikes the ground in rhythm, mimicking the spirit of the earthquake. Their bells chime in counter rhythm. Their breath is audible. The masks don't blink. You're not just watching, you're absorbing. The myths they dance are too old for stories, too layered for translation, but they reach you, in your chest, in your spine. You feel like you're standing inside a memory that isn't yours. One dancer stops before you. You freeze. Their mask is half sun, half shadow, and the feathers around their shoulders twitch slightly in the breeze. They don't speak, just raise a single hand, index finger extended, pointing to the sky. Then they spin once, sharply, and vanish back into the motion of the group. You blink. What did that mean? You don't know, but you know not to ask. Later, maybe someone will explain. Or maybe it was meant for you alone. The music deepens, drums now, slow and resonant, echoing against the stone. You feel it in your bones. The plaza fills again, this time with people carrying offerings, bundles of coca leaves, carved gourds, clay pots of thick chicha. Each person holds theirs with both hands, like a baby, like a heart. The dancers kneel now, surrounding the central spiral. One begins to chant. The voice is dry, aged, but strong. The words are ancient Quechua, fluid, breathy, rhythmic. You don't need translation. You feel the weight of them. Names, mountains, seasons, pleas. The villagers step forward, one by one, laying their offerings in the center spiral. Some place them gently. Some press their foreheads to the ground before releasing them. You hold your breath. An elder touches your shoulder. You turn. She hands you a bundle wrapped in cloth. It's warm, fragrant, something roasted. You unwrap it just enough to see a little packet of herbs, a handful of maize, and a dried orchid. Your offering. You nod, bow slightly, and rise. The walk to the spiral feels longer than it should. The torches flicker. The drums continue their slow heartbeat. When you reach the edge, you kneel, touch the cloth to your forehead, and place it in the center. For a moment, nothing happens. And then the spiral flickers with light. It's subtle, not fire, reflected starlight, maybe caught in the petals, the dust, the oil smeared by countless hands. But it moves, gently, like breath. The crowd exhales as one. You step back. You are part of it now. Historians still argue whether these festivals were about agricultural cycles or cosmological alignments. Some say they were practical, meant to keep the harvest coming, the rains timely. Others claim they were symbolic, a way to keep communities synchronized, memory preserved. But when you're standing there, watching your offering glow faintly in a spiral of petals and feathers, neither seems quite right. It feels older than both ideas, less planned, more remembered. The priest dancers begin to retreat, step by silent step, and the villagers do the same, slowly, carefully. No one turns their back on the spiral. And just like that, the plaza is empty again. But you know it isn't over, not even close. You feel it in your feet, in the rhythm beneath the stones. The next part is coming. You don't remember falling asleep, but you must have, because now your eyes blink open to the sound of soft sweeping. It's still night. The stars remain stitched across the black sky like tiny, unmoving eyes, and the fire at the edge of the plaza has burned down to coals. But something has shifted again. The stillness is not the stillness of sleep. It's the kind that comes right before something begins. You sit up slowly, wrapping your shawl tighter, and see figures moving through the plaza with long brooms made of bundled reeds. They're not cleaning, they're drawing. They sweep not to remove dust, but to shape it. You rise and walk quietly to the edge of the pattern forming. It spirals outward from a central point, soft and deliberate, the dust rising in precise trails that catch the starlight. Around the edges, others begin to drop small markers, stones, feathers, tiny pieces of carved wood. No one speaks, you don't ask, but it becomes clear that this is the map, not of the village, of the sky. You recognize it in pieces, a crooked line of pebbles tracing the serpent constellation you remember from an earlier story, a cluster of maize kernels shaped like the Pleiades, and the center, a single, smooth obsidian shard, glinting like a doorway into something darker than night itself. You're told with a gesture to place something on the map. You hesitate, then reach into your pouch, a dried coca leaf. It crumbles slightly in your fingers. You walk slowly to an open space along the outer ring and place it gently beside a tiny stone llama. No one reacts, but the elder watching you gives a nearly imperceptible nod. You've placed yourself in the sky. Behind you, the music begins again, but different now, not the flutes or drums. This time, it's bones, a low, clattering rhythm, hollow sticks struck against turtle shells, femur flutes humming like wind in a canyon. The sound is eerie, but not frightening. It feels ancient and practical, like something designed to wake not people, but memory. You follow the sound to a smaller plaza, where a group of villagers in bone necklaces and ash-painted faces move in slow, circular steps. They're weaving around a fire that is not for warmth, but for reading. They drop items into the flames, twigs, dried flowers, scraps of woven cloth, and study the shapes the smoke makes as it lifts. One of them turns to you and offers a bowl. You peer inside, fat, rendered llama, fat, thick and yellow, warm to a creamy glow. The smell is musky, herbal, somehow comforting. You're handed a wooden stick with a hollow center and shown how to dip it, stir in coca leaves, and then let it cool into a congealed spiral. This will be your offering. You're told without words to keep it close. You return to the larger plaza, the spiral in dust still glowing softly in moonlight. There's a buzz of quiet motion now, preparation. And then, the clothing appears. You're guided toward a woven mat where bundles of garments have been laid out like sacred relics. You're told to choose, but not freely. The woman beside the garments watches you closely, gently steering your hand away from one tunic and toward another. You pick it up. It's heavier than it looks. The fabric is hand-woven, dyed in lines of deep red and ochre, and stitched with geometric symbols. You slip it over your head. It fits perfectly. Then she hands you a sash. The way it's tied matters. One loop over the shoulder, one knot at the back, a tassel pointing down, not up. You help others do the same, watching the direction of each thread, the angle of every fold. Someone laughs when your tassel ends up on the wrong side, but not unkindly. You fix it and smile. This isn't just clothing, it's language. Historians still argue whether these textiles were decorative or communicative. Some believe the patterns told stories. Others argue they denoted lineage or allegiance. But here, in the firelight, you understand something they don't. These garments aren't just worn, they're performed. The meaning is in the motion. And then come the feathers, bundles of long plumes, condor, macaw, parrot, are brought out in reed baskets and distributed like medals. You receive two, one green, one black. You're not told where to put them. You watch. Some people tuck them into their sashes, others braid them into their hair. A few hold them in their hands as they move through the plaza, like portable prayers. You choose to slip one behind your ear, the other into the fold of your belt. Suddenly, the plaza hushes, the music stops. One figure steps forward, robed entirely in white, with a single red band wrapped around their eyes. In their hands is a clay bowl. It steams. They walk the plaza slowly, stopping before each person. When they reach you, they tilt the bowl. You breathe in. The steam smells of mint, earth, and something sweet you can't name. They don't speak, just nod and move on. This is the cleansing. You feel lighter somehow, like dust has been swept from your chest. The fire is stoked again, and a low chant begins, not from one person, but many. It grows not in volume, but in layers. You begin to hear harmonies, counter rhythms, syllables bouncing back and forth like questions and answers. The villagers begin to walk, not quite dancing, not quite marching, in a wide circle around the spiral. You join them. Your feet crunch softly on the ground, stepping into footprints already made. You're handed your offering, the cooled fat spiral, and cupped it in both hands. The chant continues, now a gentle tide. Someone brushes past you and murmurs a single word in Quechua. You don't know what it means, but you whisper it back. The circle tightens. A woman near the center kneels and begins to speak in a rising tone. Her hands lifted toward the sky. Her voice doesn't waver. Others kneel too, their offerings held out like compass needles. You follow, and then the fire is extinguished. No wind, no sound, just gone. The darkness is complete. No one moves for a breath. 2, 3, then a single bell. Soft, deliberate. You open your eyes again. You hadn't realized they were closed. The plaza is bathed not in firelight now, but in moonlight. Cold, silver, silent. It is time, one by one. Villagers step forward to place their offerings in a wide ring around the spiral. You watch, heart steady, then rise to follow. Your fingers tremble slightly as you approach. You kneel, set the spiral down, and whisper that same word again. The wind answers, just a breeze, but it moves the dust, catches a petal, carries the smoke of the past upward into the stars. You return to the circle, shoulders lighter. This part is done. The next will arrive when the gods are ready. You stay kneeling longer than expected. Your knees should ache by now, pressed into the cool earth, but they don't. The silence has become something else, not absence, but weight. A soft, invisible cloth draped over the entire village. No one speaks, no one stirs. The air itself feels like it's waiting. Then, without signal, everyone stands, as if pulled by the same invisible thread. You rise too, dust clinging to your hands. A narrow trail of villagers begins to move toward the eastern edge of the village, toward a slope of terraced stone fields just beyond the last torch. Someone gestures for you to follow, and you do. The mountain path is dim, lit only by the moon and the soft glow of woven lanterns strung with fireflies. Your feet find the stone steps easily. This path has been walked for generations. You wonder how many people, over how many years, have climbed it under the same silver sky. Maybe the stones remember. At the top of the rise, you see it a wide plateau ringed with carved stones, each upright like a sentinel. They're worn smooth by wind, but some still show faint faces, spirals, hands. It's a calendar, a clock, a map, maybe all three. Everyone spreads out along the rim. You're handed a small jar of white clay and a flat, leaf-shaped paddle. The person beside you, an old man with no shoes and a headband of green thread, gently paints a streak of clay across his cheek, then taps the paddle to his forehead and holds it over his heart. You do the same. The clay is cold, almost startling, but strangely calming, as if it reminds your skin that it belongs to the mountain now. Then the humming starts. A low vibration, almost inaudible at first, then rising as more voices join in. You look around. Some are seated with eyes closed, others sway gently, their shadows long and soft in the moonlight. You add your voice, not words, just tone, and feel it echo in your chest. You don't know the song, but you're singing it anyway. Suddenly, one of the carved stones casts a shadow that lands precisely on a circle etched into the ground. The old man beside you murmurs and nods. This is the sign. The moment has arrived. The priestess appears. You hadn't seen her before, but now she stands at the very center of the stone ring, robes shimmering faintly in the moonlight, arms lifted as if she were holding the sky in place. She wears no mask. Her face is painted in sharp, geometric lines, white and blue, her hair threaded with silver cords that tangle like streams of light. She begins to speak. Her voice doesn't rise or fall. It flows, constant, like a stream that's always been there. You catch only fragments, names of constellations, references to rivers you've never seen, stories about the time before stories. She raises a hand, and everyone kneels. This part, you've learned, needs no explanation. You kneel too, fingers pressed to the earth, forehead lowered. You feel a strange comfort in the ground beneath your skin, as if it's listening. Then something changes. The priestess begins to sing, not a chant, a melody, and it's playful. You peek up. She's dancing now. Small steps, quick turns, arms mimicking birds in flight. The circle of observers chuckles softly. This is different, lighter. You're not sure if this part is sacred or comedic, but the priestess seems to embody both. Suddenly, from the edge of the stone ring, a group of dancers emerges, each one dressed in tunics too long, their belts tied awkwardly, their hats askew. You realize what's happening. This is the parody, the sacred turned upside down for a single moment of joyful release. The dancers mimic the solemn priests, the ritual steps, but exaggerated. One of them stumbles dramatically. Another trips on his sash. Laughter ripples through the crowd. You're not used to laughter in a ritual. But here, it's welcomed, needed, even. The old man beside you leans over and whispers, "Even the gods must laugh, or they forget we're human." You smile. One of the parody dancers tosses a bundle of feathers into the air. It lands in the priestess's arms. She catches it, holds it aloft like a prize, and with a sudden spin, scatters the feathers back to the sky. A few drift down and land at your feet. You don't pick them up, you just watch. The music slows again. The parody fades. The dancers retreat, still giggling, and the priestess returns to center. This time, her tone is softer, more grounded. She speaks again, but slower now, as if explaining something to a child, or to time itself. She speaks of memory, of stories carried not on paper, but on patterns, on songs, on steps, of rules so old that no one remembers who made them. You feel a chill, not from the cold, but from the weight of that truth. Historians still argue whether these festivals were scripted or spontaneous. Some believe there were scrolls, documents hidden in temples. Others insist everything was passed down by motion, gesture, repetition. But here, kneeling among shadows and feathers, you begin to understand the rule is the rhythm, and rhythm doesn't need ink. As the priestess concludes her chant, the crowd bows once more. Then, in unison, they rise and begin to walk. Down the hill, back toward the plaza, you follow. The path lit now only by the ghost glow of moonlight on clay-painted cheeks. When you reach the plaza again, something has changed. The designs you helped make earlier, gone. The petals, the maze, the spirals, all swept away. In their place is a blank space of smooth earth, and a single stone bowl in the center, empty, waiting. This is the offering bowl. You watch as each person places a finger to their forehead, then to the bowl's rim. Nothing physical is added, just intention. Memory, regret. You follow suit, pressing your finger gently to the edge of the stone, feeling the coolness seep into your skin. It feels like silence made solid. And then, the silence breaks. A child runs across the plaza, laughing, barefoot and free. The spell is lifted, not broken, just eased. People begin to speak again, softly. Friends greet each other, laughter bubbles up. Someone hands you a warm drink, a thick, honey-colored brew with a hint of cinnamon. You sip. It fills your chest with a quiet fire. And in that moment, you realize something simple. The rules of the festival aren't about control. They're about connection. To the sky, to the ground, to each other, to stories that live in movement and breath, not books. You look up. The stars haven't moved, but you have. The warmth in your chest lingers as you cradle the thick clay cup in both hands. The drink smells of roasted maize and wildflower honey, with just a trace of something earthy, maybe coca leaf, maybe time itself. You sip slowly, letting it roll over your tongue, and listen as the plaza fills with quiet voices. A soft hum of conversation returns, like morning bird song after a long stillness. Children dart between adults, their painted cheeks smudged and glowing with sweat and starlight. Laughter drifts on the breeze. It's tempting to think the ritual is over. But then, a bell rings. A single note, clear, hollow. And everyone stops. Not frozen in fear, just attentive, like students listening for the next line in a story. One of the elders raises her hand, fingers splayed, her bracelets jingle like chimes, and all eyes turn toward the western ridge where the first hints of dawn are barely teasing the horizon. Now the rules shift again. You notice it first in the silence that follows the bell. Not just an absence of talk, but an expectation. People begin to gather in lines, not perfect, but orderly. You're gently guided into one by the man from earlier, the one with the feather tucked in his belt. He doesn't speak, just places a hand on your shoulder, then takes his place ahead of you. At the front of each line stands a small wooden altar draped in woven cloth. The cloth is thick, brightly colored, stitched with the same kinds of symbols you saw in the tunics. Geometric, repeating, hypnotic. On each altar is a ceramic bowl. Inside, you glimpse thick ash mixed with petals and glimmering flecks of mica. It looks like something burned and blessed. You are handed a smooth stone. It's flat, the size of your palm, and surprisingly warm. You turn it over and see that it's been painted with a single symbol, an eye, or a sun, or maybe a seed. You can't tell. The woman who gives it to you simply nods, then gestures toward the altar. You step forward. The instructions aren't spoken, but they're understood. You press the stone gently to your forehead, then to your chest, then you lower it into the bowl of ash. You feel the softness of the petals, the cool grit of charcoal, the faint shimmer of mica dust clinging to your skin. It's a release of what you don't entirely know. Regret, perhaps, or fear, or simply the part of yourself that no longer belongs in the waking world. Behind you, others do the same. Each one carries a different expression, calm, focused, tearful, even relieved. You step aside and watch as the ceremony unfolds. The bowl fills slowly, layer by layer, stone by stone. No one rushes. The rising sun creeps over the edge of the ridge, casting pale light onto the backs of heads bowed in quiet devotion. The glow spills across the plaza, illuminating the dust kicked up from bare feet, the fading paint on cheeks and sashes, the shimmer of feathers now wilted with dew. And then, the second bell rings. This one is lower, rounder, more like a drum waking from sleep. The people straighten, and the elders begin to chant, not loudly, but firmly, as if anchoring the sun in place with their voices. It's the call to return. Everyone begins to move again, but slowly. and only toward the plaza's northern wall, where long tables have been set with bundles of food. You hadn't noticed them before. Maybe they weren't there, or maybe you weren't meant to see them yet. You join the line, stomach fluttering in that particular way it does when you're both hungry and reverent. The food is simple but sacred. There's roasted tubers, soft and steaming, maize cakes glazed with honey and wrapped in green leaves, slices of dried fruit arranged like petals on wooden platters. No meat, not today. You're told, through gestures and a few whispered words, that today is for the soil. No blood is shed during this meal. You take a small portion of each, placing it on a broad, flat leaf that serves as a plate. You sit cross-legged on the earth. No one eats yet. Everyone waits until the eldest elder, the woman who rang the bell, raises her cup and speaks a single word. You don't know the word, but when she says it, everyone echoes it. You do too, and only then does the eating begin. You chew slowly, each bite full of quiet, not silence, but presence. You notice the texture of each root, the sweetness of the honey, the way the fruit softens in your mouth. Around you, others are doing the same. There's something almost amusing about it. Dozens of people nibbling like deer, as if the slightest crunch might startle the moment away. And still, no one leaves their leaf unfinished. It's not just manners, it's law. Everything on the plate must be eaten, nothing wasted. The act of eating is an offering too, a contract with the earth. You don't just receive, you accept. And when you're done, you fold the leaf over your crumbs and place it gently in a woven basket passed from hand to hand. Someone claps, just once, and just like that, the meal is over. The rhythm shifts again. People rise and begin to move freely now. The lines dissolve, the rules loosen. Children chase each other through the plaza again. A man tunes his flute near the fire pit, though the fire is long gone. Women braid each other's hair, laughing softly. And you, suddenly tired, find a spot beneath the shade of a hanging textile and lie back. The sky is pale now. Morning has fully arrived. The stars have vanished. But the quiet remains. You close your eyes. Historians still argue whether these festivals were held to mark agricultural cycles, celestial events, or ancestral anniversaries. They debate the meaning of the chants, the origin of the feather rituals, the purpose of the patterned tunics. But none of that feels pressing here. Here, you've come to understand something else. Not all rules are about structure. Some are about stillness. Some are there to keep the chaos out. And some, especially in places like this, are meant to help you remember what it feels like to move through the world with care, with intention, with gentleness. You fall asleep beneath the quiet rustle of prayer flags swaying in the early sun, and the festival continues around you. You wake slowly. There's no rush, no sudden jolt of awareness, just the kind of drifting return that feels like rising out of a warm lake. Your eyes open to soft light and long shadows. The prayer flags above you flutter like quiet thoughts. Somewhere nearby, someone is humming a low tune, gentle and repetitive, like a lullaby sung backward. You sit up and stretch, your joints stiff but soothed. The shawl you'd wrapped around yourself in the night has slipped down your shoulders, and the chill in the air is just enough to remind you you're still on the mountain. But the village feels different now, not empty, just lighter, looser, as if some great weight has lifted, and the space it left behind is now filled with sunlight and drifting petals. A few people wander past, carrying baskets of herbs, stones, or folded cloth. Their faces are relaxed, content. Some smile when they see you awake, but they don't speak. They nod, as if to say, "You're doing fine." You rise, brush the dust from your tunic, and start walking. No one tells you where to go, and yet your feet seem to know. You follow a trail of scattered maize husks through a narrow corridor of stacked stone walls. At the end, you find a small clearing, ringed with stones and shaded by an overhanging ledge. A spring gurgles softly at its center, the water so clear it reflects the sky like a second world. A woman kneels by the edge, scooping water into a wide clay bowl. Her hair is silver and bound in a braid as thick as your wrist. Without looking up, she gestures for you to sit. You do. She dips her fingers into the water and flicks a few drops toward your face. The water is cold, sharp, and wakes you fully. Then she hands you a bowl, not full, just enough. She doesn't speak, but the message is clear. This is moon water. You remember now. Someone mentioned it last night. Water drawn by moonlight is different. It's sacred. Not because of what it touches, but because of what it remembers. It's used to wash away the final layer of the old self before the sun fully claims the sky. You press the bowl to your lips and sip. It tastes familiar, like snowmelt, like breath, like memory. You pour a few drops into your hand and wipe them across your forehead, then over your chest. The woman smiles softly. You've done it right. You rise, feeling a strange new lightness in your limbs. It's not energy, exactly. It's clarity. You walk back toward the main plaza, which now looks almost ordinary. Gone are the feathers, the spirals, the carefully arranged stones. The ground is swept flat. People are busy, folding cloths, bundling herbs, cleaning vessels, and yet everything they do is quiet, rhythmic, like the festival hasn't ended. It's just changing shape. At the center of the plaza, a young girl kneels in front of a low table. Her hair is tightly braided, and her tunic is stitched with gold thread in sunburst patterns. You recognize her from last night, the child in the golden mask. Except now, there's no mask, just her face, calm, focused, watchful. She is arranging stones, one by one, carefully, silently. You step closer and realize what she's doing. She's telling a story, not with words, not even with gestures, but through placement. Each stone is a character, each gap between them, a pause, a choice, a moment. You can almost feel the rhythm of it movement, stillness, return. You watch for a long time. Someone passes you a small piece of fruit, round, purple, slightly wrinkled. You bite into it. It's sweet and tart, full of tiny seeds. As you chew, you realize no one has given you instructions all day. You're just here, being. You sit near the child and begin arranging stones of your own. Clumsily at first, unsure of the pattern, but eventually, your hands begin to move with instinct. A cluster of small, black stones here, one larger, pale one there, a ring around the edge. You're not sure what it means, but it feels right. And when you look up, the child smiles and nods. The sun is higher now, but the air is still cool. A breeze rolls through the village, carrying the smell of ash, sweetgrass, and something faintly metallic, like rain that hasn't fallen yet. Suddenly, someone calls out in a clear voice. Not a chant, not a song, just a word. You don't know it, but it carries weight. Everyone in the plaza stands, so you do too. You follow them to the base of a large stone wall, where a long, wide cloth has been hung, pure white, stitched along the edges with crimson thread. In front of it stands a man holding a small pot of deep blue paint. His hands are stained, his eyes are calm. Each person approaches the cloth, dips a finger in the paint, and presses it against the fabric. One print, no more, then they step aside. When it's your turn, your heart beats a little faster. You dip your right index finger into the pot. The paint is cool, sticky, faintly scented with herbs. You press your finger to the cloth, gently, evenly. The mark you leave is not just yours. It joins dozens of others, some high, some low, some overlapping. Together, they form a pattern that's not quite random, not quite planned, a constellation of presence, a quiet mural of "I was here." You step back and look at it. No names, no dates, just touch. Historians still argue whether ancient Andean people had a written language. Some say the knotted strings called quipu were purely numerical. Others claim they held rich stories, encoded in the placement and twist of each knot. But perhaps they missed the truth entirely. Perhaps the Andean people wrote through presence, through breath, through stone, through gesture, and now, through you. You walk again, no longer waiting for instruction, past the wall of blue fingerprints, past the bowls now being washed in the stream, past the plaza, toward the upper fields where the ground turns soft beneath your feet and tufts of highland grass wave in the breeze. There, you find a circle of stones, not carved, not marked, just placed precisely. Inside the circle sits a bundle of cloth, no larger than a loaf of bread. You step forward and kneel beside it. You recognize the cloth. It's the one you wore last night, folded carefully, returned. No one told you this would happen, but you understand the festival takes nothing. It only borrows, and now it gives it back. You pick up the bundle and hold it to your chest. It's still warm. And inside, tucked into the folds, is a single feather, the same one you'd slipped into your belt at the start. You smile, and for the first time all day, you speak just one word, a thank you, to no one in particular, and yet to everything. You linger at the stone circle for a while, feathers still cradled in your palm. There's a comfort to the quiet here, a comfort born not of emptiness, but of completion. The sun has risen high enough now that your shadow stretches only a little behind you. Morning has settled fully into its shape, and yet you don't leave. Instead, you walk the circle once, slow and clockwise, your fingers brushing the stones as you go. Some are smooth, others jagged, a few cool to the touch, while others hold warmth from the morning sun. It feels less like walking a path and more like tracing the outline of something remembered. A soft voice hums nearby. You glance to your right and find an old woman sitting cross-legged just outside the ring. She's weaving. Delicate threads stretch between two sticks driven into the ground, her fingers moving with a kind of sleepy precision. She doesn't look up, but she gestures to the empty ground beside her. You sit. No words are exchanged, but she hands you a handful of threads, dyed in muted reds, stormy grays, golden ochre. You don't know how to weave, but that doesn't seem to matter. You watch her for a few moments, then begin mimicking her rhythm, slow and uncertain. Over, under, tighten, over, under. It's not about perfection. The act itself is the point. Your rows are uneven. One thread slips. She chuckles, quiet, not cruel, and fixes it with a gentle tug. You try again, and this time, the colors begin to form a shape. Maybe a mountain, maybe a river, maybe nothing at all. But it's yours now, this crooked little strip of memory bound by thread and silence. Eventually, she ties off your piece and hands it to you. A keepsake, perhaps, or a signature. You bow your head in thanks, and she nods once before returning to her own work. You tuck the woven strip into your sash and begin walking again, following a path between terraced gardens where rows of potatoes, beans, and quinoa sprout in neat, earthy waves. A few villagers tend the plants, not with tools, but with hands, gently brushing away weeds, turning the soil with fingers and flat stones. They hum as they work, not melodies, but tones, chords of a sort. You kneel and help. The soil here is dark and soft, still damp from yesterday's melting frost. Your fingers sink into it easily, and the scent is thick, life and rot and promise. You don't speak, you don't ask what to do. You just pull weeds and loosen roots and hum along with the others. And then someone hands you a small pouch. Inside are seeds. You hold them in your palm, amazed at their simplicity. Tiny, lightweight, each one the size of a breath. You're directed to a clear patch of soil, and you plant them, one at a time, spaced carefully, tucked just beneath the surface. The act feels more important than the outcome. You might never see these seeds grow, but they will, and that's enough. As you dust your hands off, a young boy approaches, his arms full of thin reeds and hollow gourds. He looks up at you, smiling wide, and hands you one of each. Then he spins on his heel and trots off down a narrow path that winds behind the fields. You follow. The trail climbs gently at first, then steepens, until the fields give way to rocky outcrops and scrubby trees. The gourd is light in your hand, its hollow interior rattling softly with each step. You wonder what it's for, but again, no one says. You simply keep climbing. At the top of the ridge, the land flattens into a small plateau. A circle of people stands there, waiting. Some carry gourds like yours. Others hold flutes, drums, or nothing at all. At the center of the circle is a large flat stone, cracked down the middle like a page left open. They welcome you in with a glance. No words. Just a shift, a widening of the circle to make room. You step into place. An elder begins to speak, not in a chant, but in a tone like storytelling. The Quechua words rise and fall, full of rhythm and pause. You catch fragments again, names of winds, stories of stones that cry when left alone, songs only sung during eclipses. And then they begin to play, softly at first, flutes high and clear, drums low and slow. The gourds rattle gently, like distant rain. You're shown how to shake yours, just so, back and forth with the rhythm. You fall into step. Your body becomes part of it. It's not music, not exactly. It's remembering, and then someone begins to dance. Not grandly, just a few careful steps, arms swinging slowly, feet marking time. Others join in. You watch their feet, mimic their motion, and step into the circle. The ground feels firmer now, like it's holding you up on purpose. You move slowly, deliberately. Your gourd rattles in time. The sun climbs higher, bathing the mountaintop in bright, golden light. The wind lifts your hair, cools your skin, sweat trickles down your spine. Still, you dance. It feels like prayer, but not to a god, to gravity, perhaps, or memory. Historians still argue whether these ceremonies were worship or celebration, whether the dances were for the gods or for the people themselves. But as your body sways and your shadow turns gently beside you, you start to think maybe there's no difference. Maybe dancing is the offering. Eventually, the music softens, the flutes fade, the drums slow, the rattles still, and one by one, the dancers stop moving. No cue, just a mutual knowing. You stand still, breathing hard but steady, your feet tingling with stillness. Someone places a hand on your back, light, reassuring, and the elder smiles, not at you, not at anyone, just at the moment. Then the group begins to walk back down the trail. You follow, the gourd still in your hand. As you descend, you glance back once, at the flat stone, the circle, the sky. It's still there, of course, but it feels more like a memory now, already soft around the edges. Back in the village, the mood has shifted once again. People are preparing something. You smell it first. Smoke, sweet corn, the faint edge of burning herbs. You hear it too. Laughter, not loud, but real. And you see bundles of firewood being stacked in a tall, careful cone at the center of the plaza. This is the next part, the one that happens just before darkness returns. The firewood is stacked taller than you. Thick logs at the base, then thinner branches, then bundles of dry brush and flowers woven between the layers like garlands. It's not messy, it's sculpted, balanced with the care of something ceremonial. A fire meant to be seen, meant to carry things upward. You step closer, feeling the crowd slowly forming around the plaza's edge. There's no rush, no pushing, no spoken instructions, just a collective movement, like a tide rising. The sun is now slipping westward, casting a warm amber across the village. Shadows grow longer, stretching like reaching arms. A woman hands you a small bundle wrapped in fabric. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. You sit cross-legged at the edge of the plaza, unwrap the cloth, and find inside it one piece of charcoal, a corn husk, and a sliver of what looks like obsidian. You hold them carefully in your lap. People around you begin to write, not with pens, with fingers. Dipping into ash from nearby bowls, they press words, symbols, lines, onto the husks, onto stone fragments, even onto their palms. Not to be read, not to be shared, just released. You pause. What do you even write when no one will see it? You stare at the husk for a long moment, then draw a spiral, One loop, then another, and another. You're not sure what it means, but you know how it feels. The obsidian, too, receives a single line, sharp and straight, like a path, a choice, a departure, the charcoal. You crush slowly in your palm, you smear it across the husk like nightfall, and then you wrap them all together and stand. Everyone is moving now, approaching the fire, slowly, with reverence, not solemn, but aware. You join the procession, one by one. People lay their bundles at the base of the pyre, tucked between sticks, slid beneath flowers. No one looks at anyone else's. No one asks. There's no approval, no judgment, just offerings. When it's your turn, your hands tremble slightly. You kneel, tuck the bundle beneath a curved root at the base, and press your palm to the wood. It's dry, warm from the sun, ready. You step back. A line of elders forms across the far edge of the plaza, each holding a torch. The flames dance tall and bright, licking at the sky, casting flickers across their weathered faces. The wind is still. Then, all at once, they move, like stars falling from opposite ends of the sky. The elders walk in from every direction, torches raised. When they reach the base of the pyre, they pause, look at each other, then nod in perfect unison. The torches lower, and the fire begins. It catches quickly, no hesitation. The dry reeds erupt first, crackling and snapping with sharp bursts of light. The flames curl upward, hungrily climbing the layers of wood, chasing the flowers into smoke. For a moment, it's just fire, heat and noise and movement. Then the crowd begins to hum, low and steady. You join them, feeling your voice blend into a wide, wordless chord, not sad, not triumphant, just present, anchored, the kind of sound that doesn't come from your throat, but from your chest, from the base of your spine. You hum with everyone else as the fire devours regret, memory, intention. The corn husks twist and blacken, the obsidian cracks with a soft, almost imperceptible ping, and the spiral, your spiral, is lifted into smoke. You watch it go, upward, always upward. Historians still argue what these fires were meant to symbolize. Some say they were purifications. Others claim they were messages, signals to mountain gods or ancestral spirits. But here, standing barefoot in the dust, ash on your fingertips, you begin to understand. It's not what the fire means. It's what it frees. Something inside you feels looser now. As the flames settle into a steady roar, the humming fades, silence returns, not the heavy kind from earlier in the festival, but a lighter one, like the moment after laughter, like breath after a long climb. And then, music. Not ritual this time, not patterned, just music. A few villagers begin to play, flutes and drums, yes, but also strings, rattles, hollow gourds. The rhythm is gentle, playful, even a little mischievous. A child starts to dance, spinning on bare heels, arms flailing like reeds in wind. Others join in, and soon the plaza becomes a dance floor. But not in the way you expect. There's no center, no spotlight, no structure, just people moving, some together, some alone, some with rhythm, some with none at all, but everyone smiling, breathing, being. You hesitate at the edge, still holding your feather, the woven strip tucked into your belt. You don't know the steps, but no one else seems to either. So, you step in. Your movements are awkward at first, unsure. Your arms don't know where to go. Your hips refuse to listen. But then, someone bumps into you, gently, laughing, and you laugh too. You sway. You spin. You begin to forget how to hold still. There's no more ritual, only release, only rhythm. The sky overhead begins to fade from gold to rose, the last light of day spilling sideways across the mountains. Shadows lengthen again, this time stretching eastward, welcoming the night. The fire still burns, lower now, and people toss twigs or petals into it as they dance past, like punctuation marks in a sentence of movement. And then, the music softens. One by one, instruments are set down, conversations quiet. People return to the edges of the plaza, breathing hard, cheeks glowing, hair stuck to their foreheads. You step out of the dance, heart pounding in your chest, and feel the sweat cooling on your skin. Someone hands you a cup of water. You drink deeply. It's sweet with mint, cold as dawn, and clears your throat with the sharpness of something remembered. You lower the cup, and your eyes meet the child from earlier, the one who arranged the stones. She smiles, and she mouths a single word. You don't recognize it, but somehow, you know what it means. Enough. The fire is just embers now, a soft, pulsing red at the center of the darkening plaza. People begin to drift away, toward doorways, toward corners of the village where woven mats and folded blankets wait. You follow them at a distance, walking slow, not out of fatigue, but out of respect. You don't want to rush this ending, because it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like the breath before the ending, the kind you take when you don't want to forget what you just felt. The village glows now, not with firelight, but with rest. Doors are open, soft lamps flicker behind thin curtains, and people settle onto mats with quiet sighs and murmured goodnights. Laughter has faded into soft conversation, and even the wind seems to have lowered its voice. You walk through it all with your shawl around your shoulders, the last warmth of the festival fire still clinging faintly to your skin. You pause near the edge of the plaza and look back. Only coals remain, dark red, crumbling gently in the center of the open space. A thin column of smoke drifts upward like a thread, winding toward the stars that are beginning to reappear. One by one, constellations peek out from behind the dusk. You spot the same crooked line of stars that had been traced with maize kernels the night before. The serpent has returned, and it's not the only one. The humming begins again. You don't know where it starts, maybe from the western wall, or perhaps from behind the old water basin, but soon it spreads like a ripple, a tone, deep and even, no melody, just breath turned into vibration. People aren't gathering this time. They remain in their resting places, eyes half closed, lips barely moving. You sit on the edge of a low wall, letting the sound wash over you. This is not a ceremony. It's a vigil. You begin to hum, too. The note is familiar now, as if your body remembers it better than your mind. Your chest resonates, your shoulders loosen. The sound isn't directed toward anyone. It simply is, filling the spaces between thoughts, between words, between the stars themselves. Then, a soft rustling beside you. You glance to your left and find a small group of people sitting in a circle. In their center, a cloth bundle, carefully unwrapped to reveal dried plants, long stems of mint, thick leaves of coca, curled strips of bark. An elder is preparing something, a drink, a blend. You're invited to sit. No one speaks, but there's space for you. You settle cross-legged on the edge of the circle and watch the ritual. Each herb is handled with care, crushed by hand, rubbed gently between palms to release its oils. Dropped into a shallow clay bowl. The aroma rises immediately, sharp, bitter, grounding. Hot water is poured over the bundle. Steam coils upward, curling into shapes that dissolve before they form. A woman stirs the mixture slowly with a reed stick, then lifts the bowl. She sips once, closes her eyes, then passes it clockwise. When it reaches you, you accept it with both hands. The bowl is warm, the rim chipped. You lift it slowly and breathe in. The scent is stronger now, earthy and medicinal, with an undertone of something sweet. You sip. It's bitter at first. Then the sweetness comes. Then the warmth. It spreads slowly from your throat to your chest, then outward to your fingers and toes. Your breathing deepens, your shoulders drop, the tight coil at the base of your spine unwinds, and you feel like you could melt directly into the stone beneath you. You pass the bowl on. A silence settles over the circle, not the kind that asks for attention, but the kind that offers it. You feel it resting in your palms like a gift. Around you, others begin to close their eyes. Some whisper. Others breathe deep and slow. The stars are fully out now. And the moon, half full, high and white, casts a light so soft it feels like memory. A small boy begins to speak. He's maybe 5, maybe 6. His voice is clear but quiet, as if unsure whether he's allowed to interrupt. He tells a story, not a myth, not a legend, just something that happened to him one morning while following a butterfly through a patch of tall grass. The others in the circle listen as if it's the most important thing they've ever heard. And in this moment, it is. When he finishes, the group nods. No applause, no praise, just acknowledgement. Another person speaks next, an old man with a voice like gravel and velvet. He talks about his grandmother and the first time he saw her cry. Then a young woman shares a dream she had last week about flying above the village and seeing smoke trails like rivers in the sky. You're not asked to share, but you do, quietly, slowly. A memory you didn't know you carried, watching a thunderstorm from your window when you were young, wondering if the sky was angry or just lonely. When you finish, no one speaks, but a hand touches your shoulder. That's enough. The bowl makes its way around the circle one more time. You sip again. The taste is milder now, familiar. Your eyes begin to feel heavy, not from exhaustion, but from comfort, like they've seen enough for one night. Around the circle, people begin to lie back, heads resting on woven bags or rolled up shawls. You follow suit, gazing up at the stars that seem just a little closer now. A breeze stirs your hair, the shawl slips down to your elbows. You pull it back up, nestling into the ground. A flute begins to play, just one, somewhere nearby. A wandering tune, slow and soft, full of pauses. It doesn't demand attention. It wanders with you as your thoughts begin to drift. And then, footsteps. You hear them faintly, on the edge of the plaza, not hurried, not heavy, just someone walking, maybe a guard, maybe a priestess, maybe someone who couldn't sleep. You close your eyes. Historians still argue whether these nighttime rituals were meant to lull or protect, whether the drinks were ceremonial or simply medicinal. Some claim they were sedatives. Others call them spiritual guides. But here, now, lying beneath this moon with strangers who feel like family, the truth becomes simpler. They were bridges, between day and night, between noise and silence, between memory and dream. Your breathing slows, the flute fades, the stars begin to blur. And somewhere, deep in the bones of the village, the rules continue, unspoken, unseen, but followed, because some stories don't end. They just soften. You wake before the sun does. There's a hush over everything, the kind that exists only in the fragile space between night and morning. Even the birds haven't begun their songs. The air feels different now, lighter than before, touched with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke barely lingering from last night's fire. You sit up slowly, your shawl still wrapped around you, dew collecting along its hem. Around you, others remain sleeping, some curled on mats, others nestled against walls, their heads resting on folded arms. The village is wrapped in the soft fabric of silence, and you, somehow, are the first to rise. You move quietly, careful not to disturb the stillness, and follow a narrow trail behind the plaza that winds between stone walls slick with moss. It leads you to a familiar spring, the one where you tasted moon water, the one that shimmered like a portal to a calmer world. You sit beside it, legs tucked under you, and listen to the water trickling over stones. It speaks in whispers. A few minutes pass before you notice a figure nearby. She's young, perhaps no older than you, and sits across the spring with her hands cupped in her lap. She's cradling something, a small bundle of wool wrapped around a single kernel of maize. Her eyes are closed. She's whispering something under her breath, a chant, or maybe a memory. Then she opens her hands and lets the maize fall into the spring. You watch it float, circle once, then sink without a splash. She looks up and meets your eyes, not startled, not embarrassed, just present. She nods once, then rises and walks away, leaving behind the bundle of wool on a smooth stone. You don't ask questions. You don't need to. You pick up the bundle. It's warm. Back in the plaza, life is beginning to return. Slowly. A pot clinks against a stone hearth. A door creaks open. The faintest smell of roasted tubers wafts through the air. Someone hums a single note and holds it, just long enough to remind the village that day is coming. You sit near a wall and unwrap the wool bundle. Inside, carefully tucked in folds, is a single strip of red fabric, knotted in the middle. You run your fingers along the knot. It's tight, intentional, a message. You close the bundle and keep it. Soon after, the plaza begins to fill, not in ceremony, but in preparation. Today, it seems, is a day for building. Men carry stacks of dried adobe bricks, while women arrange baskets of thatch, tools, and cord. Laughter returns, louder now. The work has begun. You're handed a rope and led to a half-built wall. The elder guiding you doesn't say much, just pats the stone, nods at the gap, and hands you a dried chunk of clay to wedge into place. You smile, you press it carefully, matching the shape, feeling it slide into its spot with a soft scrape. Around you, others do the same. Children chase chickens between building materials. Someone drops a bundle of reeds and laughs as they scatter. The plaza, once solemn, is now full of motion, measured, purposeful, light. You wipe sweat from your brow and notice your hands are covered in dust. Earth-colored lines crease your skin, settling into every fold, every wrinkle. The red knot still rests inside your sash, tucked away like a heartbeat. A call rings out, short, sharp, joyful. Everyone pauses. You follow the others as they gather in the middle of the plaza. There, spread out on a long woven mat, are rows of strange objects. Not food, not tools, masks. Some are simple, painted wood, wide-eyed, with lines etched around the mouth. Others are elaborate, feathers, gold leaf, sharp angles, eyes that shimmer with inlaid shell. A few resemble animals. Others seem to mimic gods or ancestors. You're invited to choose one. You hesitate. They're beautiful, but solemn. But then you notice a smaller mask off to the side, faded blue, chipped around the edges, with crooked eyes and a lopsided grin. It looks like it was made by someone who didn't take themselves too seriously. You choose it, no one comments. A few others smile. Someone gives you a gentle clap on the back. Masks are tied on, not just to faces, but to purpose. With each knot tied behind your head, the world shifts. Your breath becomes slower. Your gaze changes. You feel different, but still yourself. The masked procession begins. It's not rigid. There's no drumbeat to follow, no formal path, just movement, flow. You walk through the village, past terraces and drying racks, past murals painted on old walls. Some people bow as you pass. Others laugh and wave. You realize the masks are not to hide, but to remind you are not only yourself, you are the soil, the river, the sky, the story. You arrive at the edge of the village where a wooden archway stands. Bundles of dried flowers are tied to its beams. A woman waits there, masked like a hummingbird, holding a basket of stones. She doesn't speak. She just lifts the basket and tilts it slightly toward you. Inside, the stones are carved. One reads, "Begin again." Another, "This is not the end." You choose one, you were here. You press it to your chest before slipping it into your sash beside the red knot. The procession turns back, returning to the plaza. The sun is overhead now, bright, steady. The morning hush has fully broken, replaced by the gentle noise of life continuing, and still. The rhythm holds. Historians still argue over the function of these festivals. Some say they were meant to reinforce social hierarchy. Others claim they were anarchic, brief moments when rules dissolved. But walking here, masked, dusty, full of breath and quiet thought, you begin to wonder, what if the point wasn't structure or chaos? What if the point was simply remembrance, not of dates or names, but of being? You remove your mask slowly. The breeze catches your face again, cool and kind. You hand the mask back to the person at the mat. They nod, fold it in cloth, and set it aside without a word. No trophy, no record, just return, and in that, something settles. Not closure, continuity. The mask is gone, but its presence lingers. You feel its shape still imprinted on your skin, the curve along your cheekbones, the slight weight over your nose, the way it adjusted your breathing just slightly, and as you move now, through the sunlit spaces of the village, the world feels different. Not because anything has changed, but because you have. People pass you on their way to the terraces. Some carry baskets of maize or herbs. Others return with tools, ropes, folded textiles. There is a rhythm again, not of ritual this time, but of life, cycles of motion, of tending, of small repairs. You're handed a wooden paddle and pointed toward a wall, washing. Rows of woven cloth hang on lines stretched between beams. Beneath them, bowls of water rest, some warm from the sun, others infused with lavender and mint. You kneel by one, dip the paddle, and begin gently pressing water into the fabric. Not scrubbing, not soaking, just pressing. The way you might coax a memory from something fragile. A woman next to you hums softly. Not a song, just a sound to keep the hands moving. You join her, humming on the exhale, letting your breath guide the motion. The cloth darkens with moisture, the scent rises, and your fingers move as if they've done this for years. When the cloth is finished, you lift it, fold it once, and hang it gently over the line. Wind carries the edges like wings. You step back and look at the line of fabrics, blue, red, gold, white, fluttering quietly above your head. And for a moment, the whole village feels like a breathing being, a body stitched from homes and pathways, from laughter and song, from memory and stone, a body that remembers you. Then someone calls your name. You turn, surprised to hear it. It's the boy who danced beside you at the fire, barefoot, hair full of feathers, cheeks smudged with ash. He grins wide and beckons. "It's time," he says, and runs before you can ask what for. You follow. He weaves between homes, up narrow stone steps and under hanging baskets of herbs. Finally, he leads you to a shaded courtyard where others have already gathered. At the center, a low table covered in bundles of paper-thin bark, quills, pots of deep ink, and rows of quipu, those legendary knotted cords you've heard about in stories. A woman with gray-streaked braids sits behind the table. She doesn't ask questions. She just hands you a single cord. No knots yet, just a blank length of woven string and a small carved stick. Then she nods toward a man seated in the corner who begins to speak. His voice is even, measured. He tells the story of a journey, a trek across rivers and ridges, carrying a message between two distant communities. Each sentence is deliberate, each pause significant. He isn't just telling the story, he's laying a rhythm, and as he speaks, everyone begins to knot. You watch them, fingers flying in intricate patterns, cords twisting and looping, some adding beads, others incorporating strands of dyed thread. The knots aren't uniform. Some are tight and small, others wide and loose. You don't understand the code, but you understand the intent. Each knot is a syllable, a gesture, a heartbeat. You hold your cord, hesitate, and begin. One knot for the boy who laughed when your tassel was wrong, another for the woman who gave you moon water, a long twist for the fire's spiral, a loop for the flute that played when the stars returned. You work slowly, reverently. When you finish, your cord doesn't look like much, but when you run your thumb along it, you feel it hum with quiet meaning. The woman accepts it with a nod and places it gently in a bowl with others, not to be archived, not to be translated, just to be held. Afterward, you're offered a piece of roasted maize bread, still warm from the coals. You sit with your back against a cool stone wall and eat slowly, watching as the others continue nodding and telling stories. Someone is retelling the tale of the woman who turned into a river. Another shares a story about a man who dreamed he was a cloud and woke up drenched in rain. The courtyard feels less like a place of craft and more like a sanctuary of memory. And then, something unexpected. an argument. Two elders, seated beside the dye pots, begin speaking over one another, at first calmly, but then with raised voices, still measured, still respectful, but insistent. One points to a pattern on a woven sash. The other shakes his head, emphatically disagreeing. A few others join in, offering opinions, counterpoints, but no one leaves. No one shouts. They listen. They disagree with curiosity, not fury. And then, laughter. Someone jokes about both elders being wrong. Everyone chuckles, including the elders themselves. One waves his hand in surrender and sits back, grinning. The other offers him a piece of fruit in truce. It's accepted. The conversation flows on. You sit quietly, letting the moment wash over you. Historians still argue about the quipu. Some say they were calendars, others accounting ledgers. A few believe they were a language, now lost to time. But maybe they weren't meant to be read. Maybe they were meant to be felt, a way to carry what mattered, even when words failed. Your hand moves to the knot still in your sash. You tighten it, casting long shadows through the open walls. The village is glowing again. This time, not with fire, but with golden evening light. Someone is lighting small lamps, their flicker soft and rhythmic. You rise, brushing dust from your tunic, and step back into the plaza. It looks ordinary again. No feathers, no dances, just people. And yet, something in you knows that nothing is the same. You walk to the edge of the stone circle where the fire had burned the night before. It's cool now. Only blackened ash and a few smooth stones remain. You kneel and place your hand on the earth, palm flat. It doesn't speak, but it listens. And you understand the festival was never about spectacle. It was about memory, about quiet, about rules that weren't written, but lived. Rules that shift with the wind and the stars and the silence between songs. You rise and begin walking, not away from the village, but deeper into it. Because you're not a visitor anymore. You're a thread in the pattern, and the weaving isn't finished. The sun is softer now, casting amber light over the village like spilled honey. Everything glows, walls, hair, water. Even shadows seem lit from within. You move slowly, each step quieter than the last, as if you're walking across the inside of a story. Your hands are still dusty from earlier, but you don't mind. The dust belongs. It's part of you now, like the knot in your sash, the woven strip folded in your pocket, the quiet hum that settled somewhere between your ribs. You follow the sound of wood being stacked. At the far side of the village, just beyond a row of terraced homes, you find a group of people arranging logs, not for a bonfire this time, but for seats. Low benches form a wide circle around a fire pit that hasn't been used yet. Small bundles of flowers are placed at the edges, tucked between the stones. No one is in a hurry. Each piece is set down like punctuation in a sentence too important to rush. Someone hands you a bundle. It's fragrant, rosemary, dried coca leaves, and a twist of orange peel. You place it where you're shown, between two smooth stones already warmed by the day's light. Then you sit. Others begin to arrive, some carrying bowls, others nothing at all. They speak softly, their voices like footsteps on soft earth. The circle fills slowly until nearly every seat is taken. At the center of it all sits a girl, the same one from before, the golden embroidery, the flute, the silent gaze. But this time, she holds nothing, no object, no instrument, just her own posture, straight, still, aware. Everyone waits. The wind stirs. And then the girl begins to speak, not loudly, not formally, just clearly. Her voice is young, but it holds no hesitation. She tells a story, not ancient, not mythic, but familiar, about gathering water from a stream that had grown thin, about searching for a path during a fog, about finding warmth from the hands of someone who didn't speak her language, but handed her fire anyway. It's not dramatic, but it's honest, and the truth in it feels heavier than legend. When she finishes, silence returns. Then an old man speaks. He begins with a question. Not about gods or the sky, but about what makes a stone worthy of being kept. He recalls carrying one in his pocket for 20 years before he realized it was no different from the thousands he passed on the trail every day. I kept it, he says, because I chose to. That's what made it sacred. Another silence. Then someone else. A woman with long braids and eyes the color of worn wood. She tells a short, quiet story about her sister's laughter. How it once woke a baby condor sleeping on a roof beam. The bird didn't fly. She adds, it just blinked once, like it understood. And then you don't plan to speak, but your hand lifts, unthinking, and they nod to you. Your voice is steady, softer than you expect, as you speak about the moment you arrived, how foreign it all felt, how lost you were, how no one explained anything, and yet everything made sense anyway. You tell them about the feather you tucked into your belt, the moon water, the knot. When you finish, no one claps, but they listen, fully, and somehow, that's more than enough. The girl nods once, and everyone rises. As the sun dips behind the ridgeline, the first stars begin to blink through the deepening blue. The benches are left in place, the fire pit untouched. No flames tonight, just memory. You walk with the others back toward the plaza, now lit by small oil lamps flickering inside colored bowls. Their light ripples across the stone like reflections in water. One by one, the villagers peel away, turning down paths, ducking into homes, disappearing behind draped cloth. You're left standing near the center again, the heart of everything. You look down. Someone has drawn a spiral in the dust, not with flowers or maize this time, just a single line, traced by a fingertip. It isn't perfect. It wobbles. The curve stutters in one place, but it holds. You kneel beside it and add one more turn, just a single arc. Then you rise and step back. You feel a presence behind you, and when you turn, it's the woman with the silver braid, the one from the spring. She carries a bowl filled with water that glows faintly in the dark. She doesn't speak. She dips her hand and flicks water toward the spiral. You do the same. And then, together, you walk away, to the edge of the village, where the sky opens wide and the land drops off into a valley painted in blue and gray. You sit side by side on a stone bench, watching the clouds drift like thoughts across the stars. After a long time, she says quietly, this is the last night. You nod. There's no ceremony for endings here, no final trumpet, no rising crescendo. Just the slow softening of the world around you. A dog barks once in the distance. A pot clangs somewhere in a courtyard. Someone sings a lullaby to a child whose voice never interrupts it. And the stars stay. Historians still argue what these festivals meant at their core. Some insist they were structured hierarchies wrapped in performance. Others believe they were grassroots revolutions disguised as ritual. But here, beneath this sky, you stop wondering what the festival meant and start remembering what it gave. A place to listen, a place to witness, a place to stop asking what you should do and begin noticing what is. You rest your head on the stone bench behind you, and for a moment, the earth breathes. The night feels heavier now, but in a way that comforts, not burdens. You sit with it, breathe with it. The stars are thick overhead, layered and endless, forming unfamiliar constellations that feel more like stories than maps. Beside you, the woman with the silver braid remains quiet, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes half-lidded. You wonder how many times she's sat here before, how many festivals she's seen pass and fade. She doesn't answer the question you don't ask. Instead, she reaches into a cloth pouch tied at her side and pulls out a folded piece of bark, carefully. With fingers that move, like pages turning in an old book, she opens it to reveal a flat piece of pressed paper. Ink dances across the surface, not in lines, but in tiny, looping symbols. You don't recognize the script. She tilts it toward you. It's not for reading, she says, barely above a whisper. It's for remembering. You look closer. The marks seem random at first, but the more you stare, the more you see. Shapes within shapes, paths layered on paths. Maybe it's a map, maybe it's a memory, maybe it's just how the mind works when it has no need for words. She places the paper between you and waits. You hesitate, then pull from your sash the woven strip you made earlier, your clumsy, uneven little band of thread and color. You lay it next to hers. It looks small beside the inked page, but she doesn't compare. She simply smiles and presses a hand gently over both. Same purpose, she says. Different form. You nod, and then she rises. Without another word, she walks back toward the village, her shawl rippling behind her like smoke in reverse. You remain on the bench, alone now, but not lonely. The two objects remain in the starlight, a reminder that even forgotten rules leave echoes. You take them both and wrap them carefully in a square of cloth. You don't know what you'll do with them. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But you know they belong with you now, behind you. The village is quiet, no drums, no chanting, no procession, just the sound of the breeze tugging gently through leaves, a dog shifting in sleep, the distant hush of water over stone, and then footsteps. You turn. The child with the golden tunic stands at the edge of the path, barefoot, her hands behind her back. She looks at you for a long moment. Then she walks forward and sits beside you. Still, she says nothing. Instead, she opens her hands to reveal something strange, a thin strip of hide, like leather, knotted with cords at either end. In the middle is a small disc, made of fired clay, carved with a spiral that resembles the one drawn in the dust. She holds it out to you. You take it. Surprised by its warmth, the clay seems ordinary, but the spiral feels alive beneath your fingers, like it's still turning. Keep it, she says simply. You nod and tuck it away, next to the others. She rises again, gives a short bow, and disappears down the slope. You remain there for a while, listening to the stillness around you. It's not silence anymore. It's a kind of fullness, a hum that has always been there, only now you're tuned to it. Eventually, you rise too. You walk slowly back toward the center of the village, now lit only by oil lamps and the occasional window glow. The air has cooled, but not sharply. It wraps around you like a soft shawl, whispering of rest. You pass by a doorway where a family is sitting in a small circle. Hands intertwined, eyes closed. You pause, not to intrude, but to absorb. The child in the group opens one eye, smiles at you, and then closes it again. Further on, a group of young men are tying up lengths of rope into a neat coil, talking quietly about the work tomorrow will bring. They nod to you. You nod back. No one has to say it. This, too, is part of the rhythm. You turn one final corner and find yourself back at the plaza. Empty now, except for one figure, the same elder who had told the story of the stone days ago. Or maybe just last night. He sits cross-legged in the center, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on his knees. You approach without speaking. He opens one eye, then the other. You stayed, he says, as if this were the punchline to a long-forgotten joke. I didn't mean to, you reply. He chuckles. No one ever does. You sit across from him. A breeze rustles a strand of grass nearby. The stars blink above. The stones beneath you are warm from the day, cool from the night. You know, he says, there used to be a rule. You wait. No one could leave the festival without forgetting something. You raise an eyebrow. And yet, he continues, everyone always came back with something more. He reaches into his robe and pulls out a tiny bell, worn smooth, its handle wrapped in red thread. He places it between you. You'll know when to ring it, he says. And then, he closes his eyes again. You don't ask what it means. You simply pick up the bell and hold it gently in your hand. It doesn't chime. Not yet. You rise, heart beating slow and deep. The cloth bundle in your pocket, the feather in your sash, the spiral carved in clay, the thread, the water, the knot. You carry them all now, not as objects, but as truths. Historians still argue what was fact and what was myth in ancient Andean traditions. Which rules were official and which were passed from grandmother to grandchild beneath the cooking fires. But here, in the echo of everything you've seen, the difference no longer matters. The rules weren't written to be enforced. They were lived, so they could be remembered. And now, they live in you. You walk quietly toward the far edge of the village, where the fields stretch out like blankets beneath the moonlight. Tomorrow, you'll begin the descent, or maybe you won't. Maybe the path will twist back and offer another story, another task, another silence. For now, though, you stop beneath the old archway and listen. Nothing but wind and breath and the soft memory of footsteps that are no longer there. You smile and begin again. Morning comes without fanfare. No trumpet of birdsong, no sudden light spilling over the hills. Just a slow, quiet brightening. The gray deepens into blue. The stars thin and vanish one by one, like shy guests slipping out before anyone notices. And when you open your eyes, the village is already stirring, but you feel no rush to move. Your back rests against the same archway you stopped beneath the night before, your shawl draped loosely over your knees, your bundle still tucked against your side. It's not sleep you've had, at least, not the kind that separates one day from another. It's more like you've simply drifted with the rhythm of the place. You sit a while longer, watching light skim across stone. Then someone approaches. It's the young boy again, the one who gave you the gourd and pulled you into the fire dance. He's holding 2 cups made of hollowed gourds, steam rising from both. He offers one to you without a word. You take it. The drink inside is warm, fragrant, roasted maize, wild mint, a little honey. You sip. It's not sweet, not bitter, just steady, familiar. We leave today, he says after a few moments. You look at him, not because the festival ends, he adds, but because it never really does. He finishes his drink in one long gulp, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and grins. You stand and stretch. Your knees ache a little. Your shoulders feel heavier than before, but it's not the weight of fatigue. It's something else, something earned. You make your way through the village slowly. It looks almost ordinary again. The decorations are gone. The sacred plazas swept clean. The altars disassembled. Their stones returned to edges and corners as if they had never held fire. But the people, well, they carry the same hush you feel, a kind of internal echo, as though a bell had rung somewhere deep inside them and is still humming softly in their bones. You help where you can, carrying bundles, folding cloth, handing tools to those rebuilding roofs, or collecting bowls from the communal hearth. No one directs. You simply join in, then drift along to the next task when the first feels done. Eventually, you find yourself at the edge of the terraces, where the first pack animals are being prepared. There are no caravans, no long trains of people departing, just quiet goodbyes. Some families leave together, others alone. A few villagers will stay, tending to the homes, waiting for the next arrival, the next cycle. You wonder if that might one day be you. But for now, your path leads down. The elder from the story circle approaches you. He carries a walking staff, carved along its length with winding grooves and knots. He presses it into your hands. It's not for the road, he says. It's for the moments between steps. You nod. A girl you barely spoke to embraces you. A man you helped stack bricks offers you a pouch of roasted seeds. The woman with the silver braid meets your eyes from across the plaza and nods once. Slow, certain. No words are needed. They've already been spoken, just not with mouths. You take one last look at the village, not at the structures or the paths, but the spaces between them. The courtyards where songs echoed, the stones where stories were tied in knots, the doorways where laughter softened the air. And then you begin your descent. The trail is narrow but familiar. You remember the way, the turns, the steps, even the stones that tilt when you press your weight on them. But everything feels different now. The world hasn't changed, but the way you move through it has. You walk slowly, the staff tapping softly against the earth. Birds begin to sing, one voice at a time. Leaves rustle as wind finds its way through the valleys. You pass shrines along the path, small stacks of stone, feathers wedged into cracks, bowls filled with grain or coins or nothing at all. You don't leave anything. You simply pause at each one and breathe farther down. You reach a stream, the same one you crossed on your way in. You remove your sandals, step into the water, and stand for a moment, letting the current pull gently at your ankles. Then you reach into your sash and remove the spiral disc the child gave you. You hold it to your forehead. Then you release it. It falls quietly, sinking beneath the surface without resistance. You don't stay to watch it vanish. As you walk on, your shadow stretches long behind you. The path widens. A few travelers pass by. None of them speak, but some nod, one smiles. Maybe they're on their way up. Maybe they've already been and are simply walking again. You pass a tree where someone has tied strips of cloth to the branches. Red, blue, ochre. Some are faded, others are new. You untie the woven band you carried since the weaving circle and tie it gently to a low branch. It flutters once and stays. The knot in your sash remains. Not everything needs to be left behind. You reach a bend in the trail where the valley opens up fully. Green and gold fields stretching toward the horizon, small homes nestled in distant folds of earth, smoke curling from chimneys. The world feels bigger now, not louder, just wider. You stop there. Take out the bell. You turn it once in your hand. The red thread on the handle is frayed. The metal is dull. It looks like it shouldn't work at all, but when you raise it to your ear and gently shake it, the sound that comes is soft, so soft, but enough. Enough to remind you that you were here, that you listened, that you followed the rules not because you were told, but because they made space for something inside you to unfold. And now, the path continues. Historians still try to catalog every aspect of these ancient festivals. They label, record, interpret, they debate meaning and origin, function and form, but perhaps the most important truths weren't designed to be preserved in museums or studied in books. Perhaps they were meant to live in people, quietly, subtly, in the way they walk, the way they eat, the way they carry silence without fear of it, the way they leave something behind and carry something forward. You put the bell back in your pocket and keep walking. The valley greets you like a memory returning. Grass waves gently across open fields, bending with the same rhythm as the festival dancers. Low stone fences divide the land into soft geometric shapes, circles, squares, winding spirals that mirror the ones once drawn in dust and petals. The scent of sagebrush and warmed earth rides the morning air, and your shadow follows you like a familiar tune. You pass a grove of trees, short and gnarled, their branches heavy with wind-blown nests and moss. Somewhere above, a bird calls out, sharp and curious, as if asking what you've brought back with you. You don't answer aloud, but you reach into your pocket, touch the bell, and smile. The trail narrows as it leads to a footbridge, a simple thing of braided rope and planks, swaying gently over a rocky stream. When you'd crossed it before, you'd hesitated, uncertain of the steps. Now, your feet move without thinking, one step, then the next, arms loose at your sides. The rope creaks. The water below chatters like an old friend catching you up on all the things you missed while you were gone. On the far side, a woman waits. You recognize her, not from the village, but from the road before you ever arrived. She was there, seated on a boulder, sorting herbs. Then, you barely noticed her. Now, she smiles as if she's been expecting you. "Did they teach you how to leave?" she asks, adjusting the bundle on her back. You blink. "No," you say. "They taught me how to stay." She laughs, a warm, rich sound, and begins walking alongside you. No invitation is given, none is needed. You travel together in silence for a while, not the kind of silence that weighs heavy, but the kind that lets your thoughts stretch their legs and breathe, The path winds through wild grasses and low bushes, then climbs again, hugging the curve of the hillside. As you walk, you notice more travelers. Not many, just a few, scattered, each moving at their own pace. Some carry bundles. Others walk with nothing at all, but they all share a certain quiet in their eyes, a look you've come to recognize, the look of someone who has returned from a place they can't quite explain. You reach a crossroads marked by a carved stone. One direction leads down into a larger town, nestled in a basin of gold and green. The other, a narrower path, curls back toward higher ground. You hesitate. The woman stops beside you and studies your face. "You're not lost," she says. "You're remembering." You turn toward the narrow path. "I think I'm not finished yet." She nods, then touches your arm lightly. "Then go gently." You take the upper trail. The climb is not difficult, but it's steep. Your legs ache after a while, and your breath shortens. Still, you keep going. Not to reach something, but to follow the pull inside you that says not yet. Birds flit past, and insects hum softly in the underbrush. The sky stretches wider the higher you go. At the top, the trail opens onto a flat ridge, not large, not marked, but still sacred in a way you can't name. You sit, not to rest, but to listen. The view below is vast. The terraces you once worked shimmer like scales in the light. The trails you walked blur into lines too fine to follow. Somewhere, far off, a flute plays, a single note, rising and falling with the breeze. You close your eyes, and there it is again. The hum, the low, constant rhythm that never left, only grew quieter until you knew how to hear it. You reach into your sash and remove the knot. It's tighter now, from days of wear and silent meaning. You untie it, slowly, carefully. Not to undo it, but to remember how it came to be. Then you tie it again, looser this time, lighter. The staff leans beside you. You take it and carve a line into the dirt. Just one. No spiral, no symbol, just a single gesture. A reminder that this place was touched, that this moment happened. A bird lands nearby, black wings, bright eyes. It watches you without alarm. You nod. The wind changes direction, and you know it's time to go. The walk back down is easier, as though the hill itself is gently pushing you forward. When you return to the main path, the woman is gone, but a few footprints in the dust curve toward the village in the valley. You follow them until they vanish. Soon, you're near the edge of town. It's louder here, more people, more voices, more movement, but nothing feels harsh, just awake. You pass market stalls where cloth flutters in bright colors, and baskets overflow with fruit and dried chilies. Children dart between adults. Someone is singing, a soft, rhythmic tune that sounds like it was meant to be sung while walking. You join in, just under your breath, no one notices, or maybe they do. You pause at a well to wash your hands. The water is cold and clear, and it runs over your fingers, carrying the last dust of the mountain away. You look at your reflection in the ripples, older somehow, though nothing visible has changed. Near the well, a wall is marked with handprints in faded pigment. You study them, big ones, small ones, overlapping, worn by time. Without thinking, you reach out, place your palm over one that's roughly your size. It fits. You whisper something, not a prayer, not a farewell, just a breath turned into words. Then you keep walking. Historians still argue whether the rules of ancient festivals were ever written down, or if they lived only in people, passed breath to breath, step to step. Some believe the traditions were bound to the calendar, anchored to harvests and moons. Others think they were stories, meant to teach, to guide, to correct. But maybe they were none of those, or maybe they were all of them. And maybe the only rule that mattered was this: when the moment comes, listen, and then walk. So you do. You follow the road until the town softens behind you, becoming nothing more than sound wrapped in sunlight. The landscape flattens again, opening into long stretches of golden grass that dance with the breeze. Your shadow stretches beside you, silent and loyal. The path beneath your feet is firm but worn, marked by travelers who came before you, and maybe a few who never quite left. You feel the weight of everything you carry, not just in your hands, but in your breath, your step, the way your eyes now pause longer on small things. Stones in peculiar shapes, a line of ants moving purposefully, the way the sky gathers its blues differently at the edges. It's not the heaviness of burden, it's the density of meaning. And then, voices, faint at first, like wind curling through hollow reeds. You follow them down a side trail you might have missed had the sun not caught the flicker of fabric tied to a branch. Red, like a signal. You walk gently, pushing past reeds and vines, until the trees open to a clearing shaped like a shallow bowl. There, a group of elders sits in a circle, cross-legged, facing a young woman who appears to be reciting something, not loudly, not formally, just steadily. You pause. One of the elders, without looking, gestures to an empty spot in the circle. You take your place. No one stares. No one whispers. You are simply accepted. The young woman continues, her words laced with reverence. She's describing the old way to cook the maize cakes for the day of first rain, not just the ingredients, but the rhythm of the hand when folding, the hum you must sing while grinding, the 3 heartbeats of waiting before flipping it over. It's not the taste that matters, she says. It's how you speak to the food. You feel your body lean forward, not out of effort, but interest, like it remembers hunger, not just for flavor, but for belonging. The woman finishes and bows her head. The elders nod, satisfied. One offers her a cup, and she drinks deeply, eyes closed. Another elder begins to speak, and you recognize his voice. It's the same man who once told the story about the stone in his pocket. He's older now, or maybe just quieter. This is the remembering, he says, not for us, but through us. You don't understand it all, but your chest loosens. Another elder looks at you. Do you know a story, she asks? You hesitate, then nod. You tell them about your journey to the village above, the knot you learned to tie, the silent meal shared with strangers, the flute that played without fingers moving. You speak slowly, gently, as if pulling each sentence from the earth with care. You tell them about the bell, about the clay spiral that warmed in your hand like it had a pulse of its own. You don't dramatize, you don't embellish, you just share. And when you finish, they nod, as if they already knew, or had simply been waiting to hear it in your voice. The circle breaks naturally. Some wander off. Others pair up and begin to sort herbs or carve patterns into small wooden tokens. You sit a while longer, watching a child trace spirals in the dirt with a stick. He looks up at you once, grins, and keeps drawing. Eventually, you rise. The path continues, winding through a grove where the trees lean close together, their leaves whispering in a language that only the breeze understands. Here, you pass under a low arch of vines, and on the other side, you find a row of stones etched with symbols, some you recognize from the village, others entirely new. One has the same looping knot you tied, carved into its surface like a memory someone else left for you. You press your fingers to it, not to decode, just to honor. A woman nearby sweeps the space around the stones. She wears a shawl of soft blue and moves with the calm of someone who's done this every morning of her life. She doesn't look up. But she says, you can leave something here. You reach into your pouch. There's the bell, the woven strip, a dried petal, the clay disc with the spiral. You don't want to part with any of them. And then you realize you don't have to. Instead, you untie the knot once more and place just the thread itself, coiled loosely, at the base of the carved stone. You smile, give a small bow, and walk on. Further ahead, you reach a shaded shelter, open on all sides, with mats arranged in a circle. People are sitting quietly, their eyes closed, they're breathing deep. It's not sleep, it's presence. You join them, you sit, you breathe. Time stretches like a river in no hurry to arrive. Later, how much later? You can't say. Someone rises and begins to hum. The tune is simple, wordless, but familiar. You've heard it before, in the rhythm of walking feet, in the hush between stories, in the laughter that rolls like thunder before rain. You hum too, and so do others. It fills the air, not loudly, but completely. It's not a performance, it's a remembering. Historians still puzzle over why so much of Andean ritual was unwritten, why so many of their rules and festivals and customs were passed on by gesture and sound, by pattern and pause. Some say it was practicality, others spiritual necessity. But perhaps it was simply this: words fade, but presence lingers. You leave the shelter just as dusk begins to stretch its arms across the sky. You carry no map, but the path now seems to recognize you, guiding you forward even when you don't know the name of the next place. You touch your pouch once more, then your pocket, checking only by feel. Everything that matters is still with you. You walk until the trees part and reveal a gentle field lined with small markers, stones, sticks, folded cloths, a place of rest, but not sorrow, a place for endings that never truly end. You sit again, as you did so many nights ago. You rest your hands on your knees, and you wait, not for something to happen, but for something to arrive. And slowly, it does. It begins with a flicker, not a sound, not a shape, just a shift in the light, the way twilight deepens behind the grass, or how shadows grow longer without warning. The air cools slightly, brushing across your face like breath. You close your eyes, not from weariness, but from instinct. As if by seeing less, you might notice more, and you do. There, in the hush between heartbeats, you hear it. A soft footfall, another, a rustle that could be wind, or the memory of someone passing near. You don't move. You let the silence settle again. When you open your eyes, the field around you is just as it was, markers rising like soft punctuation against the gold and gray of evening. But something has changed, not in the world, in you. A gentle awareness, a settling. You rise, stretch, and begin walking again, your feet moving slowly, almost dreamlike, across the low path that winds beyond the resting field. Each step feels familiar, though you don't recall walking here before. The earth beneath your sandals is packed and warm, and the scent of sweetgrass rises with each step. Ahead, you spot a low wall, worn and curved, marking the edge of something once grand. A terrace, a gathering place, perhaps a ceremonial garden. You step over a small stone threshold, careful not to disturb the line of smooth pebbles laid like a forgotten sentence. The space is open, circular, and rimmed with upright stones. You are not alone. Scattered across the circle are figures, some seated, some standing, all silent. They don't turn to look at you, yet they seem to notice your presence, acknowledging it in the slight tilt of a head or the shifting of weight. A woman near the far side gestures, just a small movement of her hand. You approach and sit beside her. She doesn't speak. Instead, she holds out a shallow bowl carved from dark wood. Inside are small tokens: beans, seeds, bits of woven thread, a shard of glazed pottery, a feather, a curl of red bark. Without being told, you understand, choose one. You run your fingers lightly over them, then pause at the feather, iridescent, deep blue with a tip the color of soot. You lift it gently. She nods once and smiles. You don't ask what it means. The meaning, you sense, is yours to shape. Across the circle, someone begins to speak, not loudly, but clearly. They're telling the story of a child who stole moonlight and kept it in a clay jar. It sounds absurd, beautiful, profound. The tale twists and turns, and you find yourself laughing once, then feeling a lump in your throat. The speaker pauses often, not for effect, but for breath, for silence, for space. When they finish, there is no applause, just the ripple of acknowledgement. Then another voice begins, this one older, slower. It tells of a time the rains refused to fall, and how the people gathered not to beg for water, but to teach the clouds how to sing. You listen with your entire body, your mind painting the images in soft watercolors across the inside of your eyelids. You realize this is a remembering circle, not a performance, a transmission. No notes, no paper, no official, just voice and witness. When it's your turn, you know it's your turn. You don't hesitate. You speak not of anything grand or dramatic, but of the first gourd of warm drink passed to you that morning in the village, of the boy's grin, of the way the steam curled in the early light, of how that single sip made the day feel. Yours. The listeners nod. You place the feather in the center of the circle, and the woman beside you covers it with a fold of soft cloth. The others add their own items, slowly, gently, until the bowl is full again. Then, as if on cue, the circle breaks. You rise, feeling lighter. Not emptied, but clarified. You continue walking as the sky dips toward dusk, oranges and soft purples bleeding into the horizon. The trail bends once more, and you find yourself near a series of low steps carved into a hill. Each step is marked with a handprint in faded red pigment, one atop another, layered through time. You kneel and press your palm into one. It doesn't match exactly, but it fits. From the top of the hill, you can see the broader valley, fields quilted in shadow, distant fires beginning to blink into life like low stars. A river glints far off, winding like thread through the folds of land. And overhead, the first true stars emerge, pale and patient. You sit, not because you are tired, but because the moment is complete. A group of children passes behind you, laughing, not wild, but like wind dancing through reeds. One drops a cloth doll near your foot. You pick it up and hand it back. She curtsies solemnly, then scampers off. You smile. You open your pouch and feel for the bell. Still there. Still silent. Not time yet. You rest the walking staff across your knees and hum. Not a melody you know, but one that feels right, rising and falling with the breath of the night, echoing softly across the hillside. And soon, you realize you're not the only one humming. Others have joined in, from unseen places, a harmony of untrained voices, threading through dusk like incense. You close your eyes again and listen. Historians still argue about the nature of these quiet gatherings, if they were ritual or rest or rehearsal for something grander. Some call them meditations, others proto-democratic exchanges, but all miss the point. They weren't about anything. They existed. That was enough. You rise as the last of the sun disappears behind the far hills. You walk down the slope slowly, gently, each step sure, each breath even. No destination, just direction. Because this isn't the end. This is the part where the path becomes yours. You walk now without thinking. Not because you are unaware, but because the movement has become part of you, like breathing, like blinking. The trail beneath your feet is neither wide nor narrow, neither new nor old. It simply is. And so are you. The moon has begun its slow climb above the hills, casting a pale light across the ground. Shadows stretch long and quiet, melting into one another. The breeze has cooled, brushing softly against your cheeks and stirring the low grass at your sides. You draw your shawl a little tighter. Still, you keep walking. Ahead, the path begins to split, first in twos, then in threes, narrow fingers reaching in different directions. You pause at the junction. There are no signs, no markers, no footprints to guide you, just the whisper of possibility. You kneel down, press your palm to the earth, and wait. You don't ask which path is right. You listen for the one that welcomes you. And when you feel the subtle hum rise through your fingers, up your arm, and into the center of your chest, you know. You stand and take the leftmost trail, narrow and overgrown, curving gently toward the trees. The forest here is different, not dense, not dark, just still. The leaves don't rustle unless spoken to. The branches don't sway unless invited. You move gently, one step at a time, feeling the silence as a companion, not a void. Your fingers trail along the bark of a nearby tree. It's rough but warm, alive. The canopy above you lets in slivers of moonlight, and every now and then, a star peers through. You think of the circle of stones, the bowl of tokens, the stories passed from breath to breath. You reach a clearing, a small, round glade encircled by ferns and low moss-covered stones. In the center stands a single post, carved with symbols you've seen before: spirals, knots, a pair of feet drawn mid-step. No offering bowl, no altar, no fire pit, just the post. You approach and rest your hand on the wood. It hums faintly beneath your palm, a vibration, soft and slow, like a heart that has no need to rush. You don't speak, you don't move, you just stay, and the forest stays with you. A long while later, minutes, hours, it's hard to tell. You hear the sound of footsteps, not cautious, not hurried, just steady. A figure appears at the edge of the glade, an elder, not one you've met before, yet somehow entirely familiar. Their shawl is dark gray, almost silver in the moonlight, and their eyes are deep and still. They carry no staff, no pack, just a quiet presence, like a page waiting to be written on. They nod to you, you nod back. They take a seat on the mossy stone opposite you, folding their hands in their lap. Then, with a slow breath, they begin to speak. Not in a loud voice, not in a rush, just enough for the words to reach you clearly. They speak of the festival you've journeyed through, not as a thing of the past, not even as a tradition, but as a motion that continues, a spiral that never ends. You walked it, they say, not just with your feet, but with your breath. You're noticing, you're remembering, you listen without blinking, you followed the rules. They continue, not because they were given, but because they were offered, and you chose to carry them. You think of the gourd of tea, the firelit dance, the weaving circle, the bell. They pause, studying you gently. Do you know why this post has no offering bowl? You shake your head, because here, they say, you are the offering. The words are not frightening. They are grounding. You close your eyes and feel the weight of them settle like a blanket across your shoulders. The glade seems to grow even quieter, if such a thing is possible. And yet, you feel full, not alone. When you open your eyes again, the elder is rising. They place something in your hands, a small bundle wrapped in soft fabric, tied with a thread of red and gold. You look down, but do not open it. Later, they whisper. Then they step back into the trees, becoming shadow. Then, nothing at all. You sit for a moment longer, then rise. Your legs feel firm, your breath deep, your direction clear. You leave the clearing with slow, deliberate steps, returning to the path that welcomed you. The forest parts for you this time. No resistance, only permission. Soon, the trees thin. The trail opens into wide, rolling grassland. The moon casts its light freely now, silvering the earth, drawing your shadow long across the soft incline ahead. You walk toward the rise, where the sky seems to meet the soil, and when you crest the hill, you see it, the valley below. But this time, it's not just geography, it's memory, it's story, it's the journey, all laid out in the folds of land and light. You lower yourself to the ground, settling your bundle beside you, and breathe in the cool night air. A breeze rises behind you, brushing your hair, reminding you gently that the journey doesn't end just because the walking does. You untie the bundle. Inside, you find a piece of cloth embroidered with the same knot you carried on your sash, a carved stone shaped like a seed, and a single word stitched in thread along the edge of the fabric: Tepi, the center, the still point, the place where everything meets. You smile. It's not a lesson, it's a reminder. You fold the cloth again and tuck it into your pouch. The bell rests beside it. And now, at last, you feel it's time. You reach into the pouch and remove the bell. It's warm to the touch. You raise it slowly, holding it at your heart, then give it one soft shake. The sound that comes is barely more than breath, but it carries. through the valley, through you, and into the stillness of the night. Historians still study the threads of these ancient customs. They measure altitude, chart star alignments, map crop cycles and rain seasons. They write volumes trying to explain why these rules mattered. But you know now, some things were never meant to be understood, only felt and followed and remembered, in the hum of footsteps, in the shape of silence, in the gentle offering of a bell. The valley lies quiet beneath the stars now. You sit at its edge, the grass beneath you cool and soft, the bell resting gently in your lap. A hush wraps around the land like a woolen shawl, familiar, comforting, and full of memory. The wind has quieted. Even the insects seem to sing more slowly, as if the whole world is exhaling with you. You close your eyes, you let your shoulders fall, your jaw soften, your hands rest without tension. You've walked far, not just across fields and terraces, but through time, through voices, through the soft rules that don't demand but invite. You've listened to stories passed in gesture and silence. You've learned the language of movement, of offering, of stillness. And now, there's nothing more to do, no step to take, no lesson to grasp. Only this moment, this breath, this deep and steady settling. The moon is high now, painting the land in silver tones. You lie back in the grass, eyes tracing the curve of the stars above. The scent of earth and sage lingers in the air. Somewhere far off, a flute plays just one note, and then lets it fade. You smile. You made it. Not to a destination, but to a place inside you that remembers how to be soft, how to be still, how to carry old stories without breaking them. The bell in your hand grows cool. You close your eyes again, and this time, you sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.